Welcome back to DE Tutorials. Today we are covering solving word problems. Get your pen and paper and let's dive in. To effectively solve problems involving expressions and equations, a multi-step approach is recommended. This involves understanding the problem, translating it into a mathematical representation, solving the equation, and then verifying the solution. Using strategies like substitution, graphing, or elimination can be helpful, depending on the type of problem. 1. Understand the problem. Read carefully. Ensure you understand all the words and concepts presented in the problem. If necessary, look up unfamiliar terms. Identify what you're solving for. Determine what the problem is asking you to find. Identify known information. List all the given information that will be used to set up the equation. 2. Translate into a mathematical representation. Define variables. Assign variables, for example x, y, z, to represent unknown quantities in the problem. Write the equation. Translate the problem into a mathematical equation using the variables and given information. Alright, let's dive into solving the equation. First, simplify both sides. Use algebraic techniques like combining like terms and applying the distributive property to simplify the equation. Next, isolate the variable. Rearrange the equation to isolate the variable you're solving for on one side. Finally, solve for the variable. Use appropriate operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division to determine the value of the variable. Now, let's verify the solution. Substitute the solution you found back into the original equation to ensure it satisfies the equation, then check for validity. Make sure the solution makes sense within the context of the problem. Let's talk about some strategies for solving equations. First, substitution. If you have a system of equations, solving one equation for one variable and substituting it into the other equation can help you find a solution. Next, graphing. If you have a system of equations, graphing them can visually identify the solutions. Another method is elimination. If you have a system of equations, you can eliminate one variable by adding or subtracting the equations. For higher degree polynomial equations, factoring can help you find the solutions. For quadratic equations, the quadratic formula provides a direct solution. Finally, completing the square. This technique can be used to transform a quadratic equation into a more easily solvable form. Problem-solving strategies. Act it out. For problems involving sequences or order of operations, acting out the problem can help visualize the steps. Draw a diagram. For problems involving geometry or spatial relationships, drawing a diagram can help understand the problem. Work backwards. For problems involving steps or processes, working backwards can help find a solution. Look for patterns. For problems involving sequences or series, looking for patterns can help find a general formula or solution. Guess and check. For some problems, guessing and checking can help narrow down the possible solutions. By using a combination of these strategies, you can effectively solve problems involving expressions and equations. To effectively solve problems involving equations and inequalities, a systematic approach is crucial. This involves simplifying each side, isolating the variable, and solving for the variable. Remember to check your solutions, especially when dealing with inequalities, where dividing by a negative number requires flipping the inequality sign. Here's a breakdown of the strategies. First, simplifying equations and inequalities. Combine like terms group terms with the same variable and constants together on each side. Use the distributive property. Remove parentheses by multiplying each term inside the parentheses by the factor outside. And, clear fractions, multiply all terms by the least common denominator to eliminate fractions. Next, isolating the variable. Move variable terms. Use addition or subtraction to move all terms containing the variable to one side. Then, move constant terms. Use addition or subtraction to move all constant terms to the other side. Finally, solving for the variable. Division. Divide both sides by the coefficient of the variable to isolate it. And remember to flip the inequality sign. When dividing both sides of an inequality by a negative number, the direction of the inequality sign must be reversed. Checking solutions. Substitute the solution you found back into the original equation or inequality to verify that it is a true statement. Example. Let's say you have the inequality negative 2x plus 3 is less than 7. First, simplify negative 2x plus 3 is less than 7. Next, isolate the variable term negative 2x is less than 4. You do this by subtracting 3 from both sides. Then, solve for x is greater than negative 2. You achieve this by dividing both sides by negative 2 and flipping the inequality sign. Now, check. Substitute x equals negative 3, a value greater than negative 2, into the original inequality. Negative 2 times negative 3 plus 3 is less than 7, which simplifies to 9 is less than 7. This is false, so x equals negative 3 is not a solution. Instead, substitute x equals negative 1, another value greater than negative 2, into the original inequality. Negative 2 times negative 1 plus 3 is less than 7, which simplifies to 5 is less than 7. This is true, so x equals negative 1 is a solution. By consistently applying these strategies, you can effectively solve various problems involving equations and inequalities. If you find this lesson useful, please share with your friends and fellow students. See you in our next session.